Hello, 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 and welcome back to Coach's Corner. It is a Wednesday, June 26th, and I'm here in the jersey. I just have the Georgia jersey on, my Rose Bowl Nick Chubb jersey. One of my favorite jerseys, probably of all time. It's this and the Brock Bowers. That's the Orange Bowl jersey. Both have the same, kind of big patch, and I don't know why. I just love them. I feel like it's just one of my most beautiful jerseys, in my opinion, plus some of my favorite players. And so, along with that, I feel like you might see in the background, of course, every time I do these, I try and put up a new jersey to kind of fit the theme of today. And we have to get into the move that happened later last night. I kind of racked my brain for topics. We have some good stuff coming up. We have home run mashing son of a former big leaguer that could be on the move at the deadline. We have, another famous player's son who could end up slipping into the first round. But we have to start off with the first topic that I was waiting for something to happen. I was begging something would happen for draft day, so that way I didn't have to meander my way around all these names in the draft that I truly don't know. And the New York Knickerbockers gave me that opportunity. They went ahead and made a blockbuster deal. They traded for, that is right, Mikal Bridges. And if you don't know Mikal Bridges, he used to play for the Suns, was a key piece of their finals run a couple of years ago, and then they moved him to the Nets when they made the KD trade. He had a really good year with the Nets. I don't know if he was an all-star, but he was an all-star caliber, level with the Nets that past year. And then this previous season, he wasn't banged up. It's weird to say that because he's never missed an NBA game. That's kind of a testament to him. He's played all 82 games. He's played 83 games, actually, the season before when he was traded. It feels a little crazy to say that because I felt like, he wasn't as productive because the Nets weren't good. So it's one of those things, you think that Mikal Bridges is, maybe he's hurt or something, or he wasn't playing because he didn't have these, good numbers that he had the previous season with the Nets. But no, he just had a little bit of a lower level year. He wasn't as great as the first option. I guess this, then the other. Maybe he was defended differently. Either way, he is now a New York Knick. He joins his Villanova teammates, Jalen Brunson, Josh Hart, Dante DiVincenzo. They brought the band back together in one of the more openly flirty, tampering, I think, kind of deals that we've ever seen in the NBA. And, tampering is kind of a hot topic for the NFL and what happened with Kirk Cousins and Saquon Barkley. But the NBA kind of just had their own, deal happen right before their very eyes because Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart host a podcast. Basically, it's like teammates. They're, Villanova friends. They kind of give each other a hard time. It's fun. And they had Mikal Bridges on, and they kind of just were like, hey, come to the Knicks, come to the Knicks, come to the Knicks. You're on that terrible Brooklyn team, come to the Knicks. And obviously he can't because he's not a free agent, but that was kind of a screaming red flag that something was going to happen eventually. They were definitely going to join forces, and it happened sooner than later, the day before the draft. Mikal Bridges is now a New York Knick. And there's many thoughts I have about it. And frankly, my first thought was, what are they going to do with their free agent players? Because, that's, you move to the next thing once you get the guy. They got the guy. Mikal Bridges is now a New York Knick. There's no changing that. They gave up 4 first-round picks for him and Bojan Bogdanovic, a bench scorer kind of guy. But they have free agents in OG Anunoby and also Isaiah Hartenstein, 2 very big pieces of their playoff run. And now they have decisions to make whether they pay one or both of those guys, if they decide to trade, Mitchell Robinson, a guy they have now, or Julius Randle, a guy they have now. They have many decisions to make now that it's all kind of has to move fast because they made this, win now deal for Mikal Bridges. And although I like Mikal Bridges a lot, I like the player. I think he's one of the best, defenders on the wing in the league. I think he is a valuable offensive piece now for this team. He doesn't have to be the primary scorer. He's a very good third option, second option if they move Randall. But I don't like it because I don't like the price that you're now paying. It's not the 4 first-round picks. That is a lot. I don't love it still, but that's a lot. Bojan Bogdanovic, that's whatever. It's a bench player. It's your depth. Sure, you don't have a lot of depth to begin with, but you gave up that whatever for a better player. But now that's kind of what I mentioned was OG and Isaiah Hartenstein. Those guys, I don't want to say it's presumed that they're gone, but the price probably just went up for them, in the open market because, now teams can really actually be like, hey, they traded for Mikal. Now I don't know if they can afford OG. And so now they throw a bigger bag at him, lure him away from the Knicks. Isaiah Hartenstein, once again, is also, just a very key piece for them off the bench. He was basically their starter in the playoffs. Like, those two guys, the way the money crunches now is a lot harder on the Knicks. And I don't want to say they have to make the perfect moves, but they have to make the right decisions on who they want to keep, who they want to trade. It puts a lot of pressure. It moves the timeline a lot quicker for the Knicks. Like, they were going to have to probably be a win now team just because of how they've constructed this thing with paying Jalen Brunson and Dante and Josh Hart and all these things. They see that they can make a run in the playoffs, but all of a sudden, like I said, the pressure is on now. You traded for a guy who is considered by a lot an all-star. I can't remember if he did make that all-star team or not, but he's considered by a lot like a very high-quality player. And frankly, I don't know if he can step up into the role that he's going to be expected to, because now he has that price tag on him. We paid 4 picks for you and a player, and now you're not, proving that you were worth it. But in reality, he's probably just going to be doing the same things he's been doing and playing good basketball. Like, a smooth 15 points and good defense is probably what his floor is. And if he is around that, or around 20 points, and he has off nights here and there, New York's a brash market, and a lot of things can really kind of get to you. And there's that pressure isn't there in Brooklyn. You can kind of freely do whatever you want. You can do Mikal Bridges, this Mikal Bridges show in Brooklyn, and no one really has a choice. In New York, with the Knicks, the real New York team, it's going to be a lot more serious. It's going to be a lot more eyes on you. You're going to have to step up, and you can't have those stinkers. You can't, shoot poorly in a playoff game. You got to be locked in. So we'll see if that happens, but it's one of those moves where I just think all the noise outside of it kind of ruins what I think is a good deal for both teams. That, Nets want to go towards a rebuild, the Knicks want to compete now, but it's a lot of dominoes now that are going to fall, and we'll see how they do fall and whether or not I think this will age as either a really good deal or this will be just another New York Knicks blunder. But speaking of deals, the baseball trade deadline is probably going to be fast, approaching here. I'm not exactly sure the date when it is, but there has been some noise around, names on the trade market, who's going to be going where, what teams are going to be selling. And the number one team I think that should be heading towards that market is the Blue Jays. And by heading towards the market, I mean the selling market, because the Blue Jays are in one of the more competitive divisions in all of baseball, probably the most competitive division. They have the Yankees, who are best team in the nation, Orioles, who are young up and comer, team that is here now, they are ready to win. The Red Sox, who are playing good baseball despite being, I think, largely by their own fan base, a silly team. And then the Rays, who aren't having a good year, but they're still the Rays. They pump out good pitching here and there. Regardless, Blue Jays are 4th, 5th best team in that division. And they were supposed to be an up and coming team. They were the baby Blue Jays. They had all these players that were former big leaguer sons. Cavan Biggio, or Cavan Biggio. I don't know. I'm trying here. He was traded away to the Dodgers recently, and Bo Bichette is there. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. And yesterday I saw the quote from Vladimir Guerrero Jr. where they asked him about, some trade deadline news or whatever, some kind of buzz about how the team's not doing good, basically, is this, that, and the other. And he's previously stated that he never would play for the Yankees, but now he changed his tune. He said, it's a business. And if that isn't the most red flag statement a player can give towards the trade deadline, I don't know what is, because you say that, after, being asked in the media, is hey, you could be traded, but you said you never would play for this team. What about now? You say that, it makes me think that either the player approached the front office approached the player that, hey, we could be talking to some teams. Don't be surprised if anything happens. And Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is not having a great year. He's, only has 10 home runs. He's on pace to break his career high for strikeouts. If there was a time to buy low, probably on a guy who does hit a lot of dingers, it is probably now. But it's one of those things do you get a right price for him? He was an MVP candidate just a couple years ago. It's one of those hard decisions where, you're the Blue Jays, you do spend money. They have spent money on free agents, George Springer, Jose Barrios. They've spent money before, but it hasn't yielded any sort of playoff success. They haven't had successful playoffs since Jose Bautista. It's been a long time since the Blue Jays have been competitive, and you already traded one of those core young guys that years ago, like I said, those were going to be your guys. And if you end up trading Bo Bichette, it feels like you might as well rip the Band-Aid off. Are you going to keep the one player that you're going to build around? In baseball, it's one of those things. You can't build a team like that. You kind of do need to trade all your assets and kind of just start from the ground up. The Blue Jays, I think they should head towards that. Go ahead and get out in front of it. Maybe, I don't want to say trade Vlad to the Yankees because it is your division rival, but listen to the offers. I think you should heavily consider moving one of these guys. And, like I said, it's still early, I guess, in the season. Teams don't want to make that, teams are still looking at the wild card as a possibility. The 7th wild card spot opens up a lot of more, we can probably compete. But a team like the Blue Jays, like I said, in a division that is as tough as their division, I think it is time to sell. Because I think it's one of those things you have to get ahead of, when this competitive, window is. The Orioles are going to be here. Yankees are always going to be there because they spend money. The Rays, you never know. And like I said, the Red Sox, they're good for one every couple of years. So you have to kind of figure out this time. It goes back to the figuring out the timeline. Figure out this timeline. Are you at the end of this timeline with Vlad Guerrero Jr. and Bo Bichette? Do you want to move ahead to the next spot? It's a lot of tough decisions teams have to make, and the Blue Jays aren't alone in that, but they're the team that I saw most recently. Seems like they probably should go that way. And so, going all that, player kids and whatnot, former players' kids, we have a pretty prominent one that will be probably selected here in the next day or two. That is Bronny James. And if you don't know, I shocker here. That's LeBron James's kid. I know. I blew my mind when I saw Bronny James as LeBron James's kid. Regardless, it seems like he's going to be selected, whether you think he should be or not. And now I feel like the question is it going to be in the first round? Is it going to be in the second round? Everyone kind of has their pre-thought notion that he's going to be drafted in the second round, 55 to the Lakers, because LeBron's kid, he's definitely going to go to the Lakers. But my question is why wouldn't a team in the late first round take a chance on Bronny? My opinion on him, it hasn't really changed. I don't think he's going to be a great pro. It's a lot of stuff he has to live up to. I think he'll be fine. He's a point guard. There's small point guards in the league. He can play defense pretty well. He doesn't turn the ball over a ton. It's whatever. He's a fine bench player. That's really, if you're asking for a bench player to do anything, it's not turn the ball over and play defense. Other than that, you can get a buy. So my question is why wouldn't a late first round team make that selection? And I wouldn't say force the Lakers' hand to trade them a good player, but why wouldn't they do that just to, I guess, either have a quality role player or, like I said, hold the Lakers a little bit hostage. Trade us one of your other good young role players if you want this guy so bad. It's just hey, if you're going to take him, I feel like you could take a proven commodity here for a guy that was a former McDonald's All-American. You could take him instead of some European that might not come over. I feel like that's, you're going to take the guy that will definitely come play for your team. Because, let's be honest. Bronny, what leverage does Bronny have other than LeBron is his dad? Rich Paul is going to hold your team hostage. I don't know. I just don't know what leverage Bronny James has over any of these teams that are contenders at the end of the first round. Because that's another thing is like, it's not like the Wizards are taking him second and going to hold him hostage because they want LeBron to come to Washington. It doesn't make sense for them. It's going to be a contending team. It's going to be a team that will probably develop him well because they're, once again, a contending team that's good. And maybe he gets some run, in his next year. Like, I call me old-fashioned. I feel like drafting a player and having him not play his first year is probably a good idea for a guy that would, probably just be sitting the bench at a college. Like, he's going to be sitting the bench in the NBA and getting that training, and maybe he does turn into an okay player. Like, I just don't see the reason why a team late in the first round wouldn't do that. Maybe, or why wouldn't they trade to the beginning of the second round? Trade back in the first round. NFL teams do that a lot, where it's like the Bills did it, where they traded away their pick and moved to the first pick of the second round. Like, why wouldn't the Celtics or Nuggets do that? Like, it just seems like it just seems like you're going to know what you're getting, and I feel like that their camp has played this we're going to go only to the Lakers or the Suns, really. And I don't know what the benefit in that is. Players don't work out for teams all the time, and they still get drafted. I don't think the question. I don't think it's out of the question. Alex Sarr will, be drafted by the Hawks at 1 because he didn't work out and doesn't sound like he doesn't want to be there. But I don't think it's really his decision to make that. So once again, I feel like it's interesting. We're going to see what happens with Bronny James, but I'm a end of the first round team, and I mean, I'm pretty much already there with my top 8 guys. Like, why wouldn't I take a chance on a rookie like that and just have him sit on the bench and just develop? I don't know. So it'll be very interesting, like I said, to see how this first round goes. A lot of, I've talked about the Hawks pick in number 1. It seems like Alex Sarr, if he makes it to number 2, will be the second pick. And then from there, I don't know what happens. The Rockets are now making a push for Kevin Durant. That's definitely a decision. I don't know. The Rockets are one of those teams where I feel like they've won enough in the past 20 years where people don't really question decisions they try and make. But the past couple of years, they've been absurd in their decision making. I don't know what is happening, whether, they traded James Harden, got all those picks back. They hired Ime Udoka, a controversial head coach. They signed a bunch of Fred VanVleet and Dylan Brooks last offseason. They have all these rookies they've been building around. I don't know. We're going to go back to timeline. That's kind of the theme of today's episode. I don't know what their timeline is. I don't know what, these decisions they're making. I don't know how they affect each other. I don't know if they're just doing it on the fly. They're just kind of a crazy team. So them at 3, if they decided to ship that away for Kevin Durant, I don't think that's happening. I think the Suns want to try it again. But the Rockets are just such a wild card. The Spurs have 2 top 10 picks. The Pistons are a desperate, sad little franchise. Bless Pistons fans' hearts. But we're going to see a new crop of players into the draft tonight. We're going to see, I don't think there's going to be a ton of great talent that anyone will feel great about. We'll recap it tomorrow to see which players probably made sense where they went. I still think there's a lot of dominoes that are going to fall in the trade market. I could very well see we're going to get the DeJounte Murray or Trae Young traded away notification as soon as I get out of here. But will Brandon Ingram be traded? Will the Pelicans do something? Will OKC make a big move again? There's just a lot of things that can happen on draft night, baby. It's kind of like draft day. You never know what will happen during the crazy course of draft day, and it is that for the NBA. So we will see what happens. But with all that being said, I am your host, Lucas Kochevar. As always, make sure you like, share, subscribe, do all that good stuff to the podcast feed, to the YouTube channel, to all those good stuff. Either way, I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.